Welcome back to Barefoot's Bible Weekly Vlog from our Revelation series. Today we review the collapse of man's last kingdom. It covers Revelation 18 verses 14 to 20, almost wrapping up the chapter. We have a little more to go after that. Archaeologists believe they found the remains of the earliest known kingdom, named Eridu, currently in the area of Iraq, and that's a picture of the remains. It was prominent Sumerian city-state situated about 20 miles from Ur. And you might remember, if your study from Genesis, that's where Abram originally lived. And looking ahead, the final kingdom of New Babylon will be the kingdom of the Antichrist, and it's about 800 miles from the very first kingdom that's been discovered. So things close together here. Let's begin. Verse 14. The fruit that your soul longed for has gone from you, and all the things which are rich and splendid have gone from you. You shall find them no more at all. This prophecy describes the disappointment of the rulers and merchants when the Antichrist capital falls. All the luxuries and the sick profits that were made off their sale will suddenly be unavailable. Satan often tempts us by holding out a shiny apple to deceive everyone into believing his lie. He will continue to tempt mankind in the end times to indulge in fleeting temptations, often overlooking the true cause. Verse 15, the merchants of these things who became rich by her will stand at a distance for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. Destruction of the great new Babylon, like the fall of the ancient Babylon, will be shockingly sudden. Charles Ryrie, in his book just entitled Revelation, comments on the greed of the wealthy class, and I'm quoting, there will be a stock market crash and a bankruptcy on a worldwide scale, yet in the face of it, the thoughts of unsaved people will turn only to how their own interests are affected. This is selfishness and greed in its most naked form. Unquote. Continuing, verse 17, for in 1 hour such great riches came to nothing. Every shipmaster, all who travel by ship, sailors, as many that trade on the sea, stood at a distance, verse 18, and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what is like this great city? The merchants and the shipmasters would be weeping and wailing due to the failure of the Babylonian bazaar and access to all the world's riches. John Walvoord, in his book entitled The Revelation of Jesus Christ, contrasts the wealth of Babylon, or the New Babylon, with true wealth, and I'm quoting, in contrast to the transitory wealth and glory of this world, which are here consumed by a great judgment from God, true riches of faith, devotion, and service for God are safely stored in heaven beyond the destructive hands of man, protected by the righteous power of God. The destruction of Babylon also ends the nefarious control of human souls, mentioned last in the list of commodities back in verse 13. No longer can ancient Babylon control the world religiously, politically, or economically. unquote. So true. Continuing. Verse 19, they threw dust on their heads and cried out, weeping and wailing and saying, alas, alas, that great city in which all who had ships on the sea became rich by her wealth. For in 1 hour she's made desolate. And that's kind of the view of the folks that profited off the Great Tribulation. Verse 20 continues with the heavenly response. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you, holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. In the final great days of the Great Tribulation, the leaders and merchants will mourn deeply over the fall of man's last kingdom. Heaven will respond with angels rejoicing over her destruction, though, and this divine call to rejoice is a direct answer to the martyr's cry back in chapter 6, when they, under the throne of God, ask him about when the judgment will come. You'll find that in Revelation 6:10. The contrast is clear. While worldly leaders lament, heaven will celebrate the justice of God's judgment. And looking ahead, 1 week, next Thursday, we will wrap up chapter 18 with Satan's big crash out. Yeah, it's the end of the party. And we'll be looking at that next week. Thanks for tuning in today. Don't forget to tune in next Thursday as we look at Satan's big crash out. Join us.